Okay, here we are in game one. I'm not exactly sure what we're playing against yet, but my good friend Nick Watson is ready to take us through something. This hand here it's pretty 50-50. We have a bit of removal. We have a lot of very high quality creatures. Obviously need to hit some land drops, and the temple will help with that. Um, yeah, I mean this is a pretty safe keep against most things. Change of the Rocks is possibly a blank in some matches, like Blue-White Control, for example, but that's fine. So we're going to keep it. And let's see what he's got going on here. Okay, Hallowed Fountain. All right, so this is probably going to be Blue-White Control. So in all likelihood, Change of the Rocks is a blank. We're going to lead off with the temple here, because we have enough information to know what we're looking for. This is actually quite a good card in this matchup, Frostburn Weird. So we're going to keep that and ship the turn. Yeah, Frostburn Weird is a bit strange. It requires a mana sink, but basically because you're not looking to run out that many threats at once into Supreme Verdict, it's just totally fine. So yeah, we're gonna run it out. This match is a bit strange. Usually you would find the creature deck trying to get under the control deck, but in this format, these matches are always going to go long, and they're going to have the tools to stop any early aggression from a deck which is like this. Um, so you normally find that it's all about trying to get this match to a point where you can win it, and to negotiate a point where they can't deal with a Stormbreath Dragon or a Hammer of Perforos, are the normal cards that'll end up sealing the deal for you. So if you can put pressure on them early with something like this or the Boros Reckoners and force them to answer them, you put yourself in a really good spot for the late game, and that's what it's all about basically. Here we've got the choice of running out a Boros Reckoner or just pumping the Frostburn Weird 3 times. I believe we're going to go with the Frostburn Weird. He's at a point where it's really efficient for him to use Supreme Verdict if I run another threat out, and if he were to run a Jace into the Frostburn Weird, that wouldn't be great for him. So we're going to do that. It's about negotiating your position in the match. Obviously, he can deal with the Frostburn Weird, but that's fine because he's tapping mana to do it, and we get to run another threat out in that gap, have him tapped out of counter spells for another turn, and that's just, yeah, it's just good. Alright, pump this bad boy 3 times, get 4 damage in, not an irrelevant amount of damage. Let's see what he's got. Okay, Ratchet Bomb. So Ratchet Bomb's an answer. It's not a fast answer. Here we have a sort of a bit of tension going on because if I pump this guy 3 times, he has Azorius Charm up to punish us for that. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to swing in and play a Boros Reckoner. Again, that will open us up to quite a bit of damage. Sorry, quite a bit of card disadvantage from a Supreme Verdict, and he's probably got it, but it's not. It's not at this point a play that I'm unhappy to make. It's sort of strange to change your position that quickly turn to turn, where I wasn't happy to do it last turn, but this turn I'm fine with it. But the Azorius Charm up makes a lot of difference, given that he can just get rid of this in response to me pumping it. It's totally possible he has a Syncopate here as well, but that's totally fine. We don't really care about that. It'll trade with a card at some point, so. Alright, cool. See if he cycles an Azorius Charm or does anything. No. Alright. If this is only a 1/4, there's no way he's going to spend an Azorius Charm, so yeah, there we go. There's a Supreme Verdict. Okay, so we have a choice here. We can run out Reckoner or Ash Zealot. Ash Zealot's actually quite a strong threat. I want to follow up with a Fanatic at some point. It's good after both of these cards actually, but so this turn 0 damage, the next turn 3 damage, the turn after that 6 damage. this is 2 damage, 2 damage, 2 damage. So for the first 3 turns, they do the same amount. And if he provides an immediate answer, the Ash Salad actually gets in more damage quicker. You do want to pressure the life totals here, so I think I'm going to go with the Ash Salad, and we'll follow up with the Reckoner most likely. That or the Fanatic, depending on which one we think we can bait a counter out with. Getting rid of Supreme Verdicts and counterspells is really important because they're the only ways to deal with Stormbreath Dragon in this match. Well, aside from this Ratchet Bomb, which is a possible answer. Obviously looking to hit a land at some point here. That's not a good draw. Okay, so he can blow up this Ash Zealot in response to me playing the Fanatic. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to see if he does it in combat, and if he does blow it up, I'd like to try and get a little bit more value off this, see if we can get some direct damage in, and I'll lay the Reckoner instead. So it's yeah, it's good for us to do it post combat. See if he's willing to spend the Ratchet Bomb on the Ash Zealot to prevent 2 damage, and it looks like he is. So we'll just run out of Reckoner and see if it meets a counterspell or what have you. Obviously he's got 5 cards in hand. He's starting to come to the point where he's going to be able to rev for 3, which looks like he might be doing. Yep. Sorry. Missing a bunch of land drops there sucks. It does. Being able to jam a Stormbreath and force an answer out of him, and force him to tap mana so he can't draw cards, is a big deal. Missing that 5th land drop is often the difference between an unbeatable hand with the red deck and a close game. It's not generally a favorable matchup pre-board, so yeah, I mean, had we hit that there on turn 5, it would have been a lot better. But you know, what happens, I guess, and you can't really choose those things. This deck already plays 25 land, and that's a significant amount. And here we're going to run out the Fanatic just because that's all we can do. Yeah, I mean, it's a significant amount of land in this deck, and you wouldn't run more. It's totally fine. You just happen to hit it sometimes, and sometimes you don't. Okay, resolves. Get our sweet 1 damage beats in. See what he's got for us. He's 20 cards into his library already, so at that point you're starting to think about what he's got in his hand. He's probably got multiple. Well, he's got the opportunity to have seen multiple copies of any card. Here's a Supreme Verdict. So I feel like this was a bad play if he had any other answer. So look, I'm feeling a Dissipate. He might have a Detention Sphere, but you know, either way, it's pretty good for us, actually. So, we can run out the Fanatic or the Frostburn. I would rather see him spend a Dissipate, but I think the Frostburn's just better. So we're actually gonna lay that down instead. Okay, it looks like he thought about that for a second. These are really important matches to get a lot of practice in this format. They go for quite a long time. Given that it's not worth, like, I've still got 5 cards in hand, for instance. He's got 6 cards, and we're on turn 9 already. So if you can't get turns achieved in a good time frame, you're in a spot of bother, basically. Okay, so here we're going to just give him the answer by itself, not let him pick up any cards. He's going to be taking the Detention Sphere, I imagine. Oh, I was wrong about that. He took the pile of 2. Not an unusual decision, to be honest. the card advantage out of Chase is always pretty sweet, and because this deck actually benefits seeing a density of cards, I am often wrong in my assumptions of what their choices will be. Okay, so here I'm gonna just try and kill Jace, see what he does. The plan is that he's probably going to deal with this, and yeah, we'll just lay the Fnatic post combat. It's entirely possible he's just willing to trade this in for gaining 2 life and 2 extra cards. We have an interesting situation here. I know he's got a Quicken in hand, so if I was to lay the Fnatic out, it's entirely possible that he just Supreme Verdicts. But because he's already spent 2, that means he's only got 2 more in the deck, and if I resolve a Stormbreath Dragon, it's actually the only way of dealing with it. I'm totally fine if he actually does that. Like, ostensibly, it's a pretty bad position for us to be in anyway, but if we can get him to spend cards like that, that'll be pretty good. Yep, gets us with a nice 2-for-1 again. Gets to untap with counter mana up. We're in a pretty rough position here. Goes down again. Alright. Really don't want him to take the dissolve there, but I imagine he will. Yeah, he's taking it. Yeah, I find this match it really is about curving out. Like it's a real struggle. I know he's got the dissolve, by the way, so I'm not going to run the Storm Breath straight into that. He'll get to counter something with it. If I can convince him that Ash Zealot's a better target, I'll be very happy. There you go. The Ash Zealot does, of course, represent enough damage to kill his Jace, and quite a lot of cards, potentially over a longer game. So, it makes sense to counter it. Sort of one of those situations where it's good for both people to make that move. Alright, just looking for some more cards again. Anyway, yeah, you sort of want to exhaust their removal, is the idea. It's not always something you can do. Hitting your land drops on time is particularly important. Okay, as for these 2 threats, these are your 2 premier threats for any control. And it's not a great matchup pre-board, so it's mainly about sticking one of those 2 guys. I feel like Chandra is going to get counted in a half, and I also think Stormbreath is going to do that. The difference being that Chandra can get Detention Sphered, whereas Stormbreath can only get Verdicted. There's only 1 Verdict left in the deck, and there's 3 Detention Spheres, so if I can bait a counter on the Chandra, I'd be very happy. Not saying it's going to happen, but I'd rather this gets cops a counter spell than the Stormbreath does. I do find this quite strong in this match, though. Being able to have something which is actually such a big threat for the control deck on turn 4 rather than turn 5 makes a big difference. And yeah, I mean, it makes you close to curving out, which is all it's about. I'm not going to be able to pay 3, so you gotta. Okay, well, the Sphinx's Rev's going to go by itself there. Something I've been thinking about for this match is putting a Pithing Needle into the sideboard just to name Elixir of Immortality. They really do struggle to kill you. They just don't have anything to do it with. So it's worth thinking about. You obviously can't strip it from their hand or counter it, and the game tends to go that long because you're willing to sit here and top deck these for infinite time. And he's already down to 30 cards left in his library, so it's not inconceivable that you can actually come to a point where he just hits a bunch of blanks off a Revelation and can't deal with it. And definitely worth playing these out. I don't know. I think I've been in a bad position for the last 5 turns or so, and it's just you just don't know what he's got in his hand. And sometimes they do have all air, and it's always worth playing for that. Okay, so I mean, Storm Breath getting countered there, not a big surprise. I've seen 2 dissolves, 3 supreme verdicts, 1 syncopate. So um, yeah, because he's got access to so many like just raw cards, you really do need to count the amount of answers he has in the deck as a whole. So he's got 2 dissolves in the bin. He's probably got another 2 dissolves in the deck. He's probably got 2 syncopates all up. Is my understanding of where this deck list is at. Um, I don't know Nick's actual deck list, so I couldn't say. But that's generically speaking, that's what I've been seeing most of is a couple of syncopates only. Okay, cool. So Hammer of Perforos is really sweet here. Um, it makes all your other threats better. Making a 3/3 every turn is like a real issue for the blue-white deck. They can only deal with it with the Azurius Charm. Sorry, not the hammer itself. Sorry, the Golem tokens. It needs a Detention Sphere, and it sort of comes down to the same maths as it did with the Chandra. In that, I would rather get a counter out of his hand with this than with this because it's so much harder to deal with once it's on board. So I'm going to run the hammer out, expecting it to be countered. If it doesn't, hooray! I mean, that's great, but you know, I'm pessimistic enough to feel like it's going to get hit by what looks like a syncopate. Syncopate 4. No, we can't pay that. I'll throw in the towel at the point that he drops an elixir and then Sphinx Revelations, um, which is presumably going to happen pretty soon. He's not actually looking for cards off his chase, even though he could be. So, alright, Fanatic comes out again. Interestingly enough, I've had this Storm Breath since turn 1, and I still haven't played it yet. Do I want to redirect to Jace? Yes, I do. It's not about, spamming these out. It's about putting them in when you've got some space and, a good position to do it, or you have no other options. And this is one of those times, I think, so this looks like a big revelation here. Revelation 4:11, yeah, that'll do it. As far as Moto's concerned, I like keeping the graveyards out in the middle of play quite a lot, just to know what they've been through. Um, I think I came into the habit with Flashback being in the previous standard format, wanting to know at all times what cards I had access to. But yeah, now I'm in the habit of it. I find it quite useful to actually just be able to run through what they have used and how many copies of it they could possibly have left. Because so many decks are built on 4-ofs at the moment because of Thoughtseizer. It's just a good option. I would recommend it to you and your family. This might be Elspeth. Yeah, cool. Mortis has some strange occasional applications in that if you have an Elspeth that goes up to 7 and it's going to ultimate the next turn, you can overload the Mortars just to get rid of all the tokens and force them into a game of just doing a little bit more action to actually get their Planeswalker to work. But if you don't actually have a way to kill it, I don't think it gets you very far. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you have a board presence. Something that comes up quite a lot actually is Elspeth played into a Chandra on board, which is pretty great because you can +1 kill a soldier, take it down to 4, kill it with a Storm Breath, which is Actually, come up quite a few times for me, but yeah. Okay, Burning Tree Emissary. Not a super relevant card here. Um, free spells are sweet. I think I might keep it though. Wait until I see if another Fanatic. I've been through three, I think. Two in the graveyard. None syncopated. Maybe just two of them. Anyway, I'm gonna run the Storm Breath out. I feel like if this gets countered, this is gonna be GG's here. And it gets dissolved. Look, I'm just going to concede the game here. Save us a bit of time. The Elspeth will kill us eventually. I have no way of dealing with it if I don't resolve a Storm Breath pretty soon. Alright, so onto the sideboard. So I have some unusual options in here, such as Burning Earth, which doesn't really get played that much. I find it pretty cool. Turning off, it's really good against Esper, basically, is the reason it's here, amongst other things. But turning off, what can be half their lands, or a bunch of one coloured source or the other coloured source, or forcing them to take a bit of damage when they Revelation, is enough of a threat that they want to deal with it. And if you can get a Detention Sphere, that's great. You can get it countered, that's great. There are cards you'd rather resolve than this, but it does enough work basically. If it's in play, you're not unhappy about that either. So what we do immediately is we take out our Chain to the Rocks because the things are useless. Take out our Mizium Mortars. We put in our Boros Charms. They're great for protecting from sweeps and also kill Planeswalkers more often than not. We're going to put in this Wear Tear to kill Detention Spheres. We're going to put in all our enchantments. Assemble Legion is obviously just very hard to deal with, and we're going to put in this Hammer. And it comes to a point where we've got 4 too many cards, and we take out the Emissaries here. The card's powerful, leads to some powerful Nykthos draws, but putting a 2-2 on the board isn't fantastic in and of itself. It's not a great position for you to be in. You'd rather have a 3-3 on Reckoner, or have the haste on Ash Salad, because of how long games end up going. So we're going to submit like this. And yes, we'd like to play first. This hand is... it's close. Obviously, 2 lands, including a temple, would be an absolute slam keep. Basically, we want to make sure we're resolving things like this on time, and because we have so many more of these threats that are hard for them to deal with after board, that we would like to have the lands. And we're going to mulligan because it's pretty greedy. Hammer's a sweet card. We got a lot of lands here, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Obviously, we don't want to flood out, but not curving out can be just as bad. So we're not going to mulligan. Lead off with Temple here. See what's on top. I'm going to put this on the bottom of the library. We'll want something like that eventually, but I feel like we'll be able to draw that 5th land at some point. More than likely, anyway. Okay, Perforos is good. They basically have to desphere it because otherwise you just get to draw shocks off the top of your deck that they have to deal with as creatures as well. It's never a creature in this match. They just kill too many dudes. Like, if this guy is a 6/5 indestructible creature, then you're winning anyway, and it's not super relevant. Okay, so we got the double hammer going, which is going to be nice because he'll probably just desphere one of them. We'd actually prefer that he does here, because we do have the second one and they're legendary. Having something like this out gets you a lot closer to Perforos being on. From time to time, especially, like, you can just draw an Ash Salad off the top of the deck and they're tapped out, and you get to hit them for 8 that turn, for example, and it's pretty sweet. So, okay, so we're gonna get a D-Sphere here. It's totally plausible that this Perforos will get counted, but we're gonna run it out anyway. No counter. Interesting. We might see Nazura's Charm get cycled here. Or just nothing. Okay. These obviously have somewhat of a combo. Gods and their weapons normally do, as they should, and it gets to do 2 damage from Perforos entering. So -2s. So I'm going to put the. What do I want to do here? Don't know if he wants the lands or not. It's possible Azura's Guildgate plus Charm is the correct pile versus Mutavault, because Mutavault's quite a strong card. I am quite happy that these are non-basics, by the way, because of the Burning Earth that we have in the sideboard. I'm going to give him the removal separate. That might not be correct, but we can't really know what's in his hand. In situations like that, he's more than likely going to take the 2 pile anyway, but he's taken the Azura's Charm, so apparently he is a bit short of interaction. Okay, so Nykthos is only mana equalative at the moment, in that it taps for 3 mana and costs you 3 lands. If this was an untapped land, we could have it producing 5 and put us up, but that's not the case. So we have a choice here between activating Hammer and playing the Frostburn. I'm going to play the Temple of Charms first to see what we're drawing. Okay, we're going to put that on the top library, because that thing is the nut. Okay, so I'm actually going to activate Nykthos for red, cast Frostburn Weird, turn on Perforos, and yes, we'll redirect to Jace, killing Jace, pump this once, and then pump it again, and swing in for 9. Pretty sweet when you get this guy to be online. He obviously has an Azura's Charm in hand that we know. So what we're going to do is we're going to run the Stormbreath out, and if he doesn't counter it, that means we get to get in with Perforos either way. He might top it, but we don't really care about that. Actually, we're gonna. My apologies, good people. I will endeavour not to be too ridiculous. Okay, 2 more damage. This is probably just going to be lethal. So Azura's Charms to Perforos, which is fine. We don't really care about that. I can pump this for 2 more damage here, but I'm not going to. Mainly because I want to keep the Boros Charm up for a possible Supreme Verdict. I feel like it's the only out he has to Stormbreath at this point, so doing anything else is sort of irrelevant. I mean, they really do struggle to deal with this card once it's in play, so. I could have domed him for 4 for lethal there as well, which is obviously a little bit better, but it doesn't get around to syncopate for 1. So yeah, so if I had gone for it and he syncopated for 1 and then untapped and Supreme Verdicted, we would have been in a pretty poor position. Okay, so Elspeth, so we can just do 4 damage to him. Okay, I'll submit again. This is one of the reasons I like this deck. Is this is a bad matchup. The control matchups are not what you want. Mainly Supreme Verdict is a lot worse for you than Thoughtseize is, because your card quality's quite high. Thoughtseize is good, but it's not going to totally ruin your day like it does for Mono Blue. But you do want to have a bunch of guys in play, and it's sort of very hard to position yourself properly in game 1. But game 2 and 3, because you get to bring so many cards in, and things that are just like really hard to deal with, you can just really run them out of answers quite easily. Excuse me, I'm drinking a bit of juice here. So it seems like Nick's thinking a bit about what he's going to do um, as for positioning himself in this matchup. Okay, here we go. Might actually extend this out. Obviously, with the timers here, we're just playing casually, so the timer doesn't really matter as much as it would. So I'm not going to pay too much attention to this. This hand's really good, so we're not gonna mulligan it. This can bait a counter if he doesn't have a counter up. We can land this. We have threats to play out, a Fnatic, Scrylands to get to our land drops, and now Nykthos. So, yeah, this is a Cadbury's favourites of good cards. We're going to get this on top, just because it's a little bit better early game than the Frostburn Weird, and any threat's a good threat, more or less, is sort of where we're at. Okay, we'll pay Sacred Foundry, and then bust his second Quicken out. I'm pretty sure it only plays two Quickens. That's not the sort of card that you really ever want to, you know, bet your life savings on them only having two of, because it's very easy for them to play a third, depending on that person's opinion on what the deck should look like. But as soon as you see the first two, you can, I don't know, you can sort of put yourself in a position where you have a quite a good idea of what they're going to be able to do. And in this case, it's probably not going to be quick and Supreme Verdict. It's something we're probably not going to play around. It doesn't make that much difference because we'll be playing around Supreme Verdict anyway, but yeah. Okay, so we're going to attack in. Going to play Temple, see what's on top of our library. It's Perforos. Yeah, that's pretty good here. Perforos plus Fnatic's pretty sweet, so we're just going to put him on top. We're going to run a Frostburn out here, which is a little counterintuitive because he might be able to verdict it away. Actually, presume that he will be able to do that, and if not, he can Ratchet Bomb. But you need to make him spend these answers, and if we can make him spend the mana to Supreme Verdict, that'd be fantastic. Just getting him to tap out a lot is really good for us. Okay, so he's missed his land drop, um, which is good. We like that. Nykthos represents 4 mana, so we got access to 5, I think, this turn. Um, so what am I going to do? Burning Earth is interestingly quite bad for us here because we have so many non-basics, and he's not in a position where he's going to be taking more than one a turn because of his skill gate. Um, we'll look to drop this later in the game, I think. Assuming that it's going to get countered, I wouldn't mind laying down a Fnatic. Um, he won't be able to, if he doesn't have the land drop for his Supreme Verdict, and if he even has a Supreme Verdict, we don't know that. Um, he isn't in a position where he can allow this to be around for too long because of it's such a high clock. So we're gonna lay a Fnatic down, see if it gets countered. Um, I honestly don't think that he's in a position where he can just detention sphere it. So yeah, he dissolved it, which is great. We've given him a scry by doing that, which is worth keeping in mind. It's not exactly something you're in love with doing, is allowing them to scry when they're in a position where they're constrained on a resource like land. But here it's okay. I mean, it's a checks and balances thing. I'd rather have him off that answer at all. He can obviously ratchet bomb here, so these guys are as good as dead. I don't think he's in a position where he can avoid doing that. I'm just going to check what he did with the dissolve. Put a card on top, which would have been that land. Okay. Yeah, so Jace comes down. He has tapped out Okay, so we're going to separate the Supreme Verdict from the Ratchet Bomb in the Islands. Hopefully it just takes the verdict here. No, it does not take the verdict. Okay, those guys are dead. So this is somewhere that we can do a couple of different things. Assuming that he's got a detention sphere, I'd rather play the Burning Earth. He can't really tap his mana effectively if we land it. It's a must deal with, and yeah, given it's one of our least proactive must deal with, it's good to get it out early. We'd really like him to detention sphere it. Yep, plays on the Ratchet Bomb. See what it does with his Jace. Plus his Jace. Okay, that's not a land. Look, it's probably just Chandra. Has to play this turn. And yes, we will redirect to Jace. It's kind of an interesting little matchup these two have. They're very similar planeswalkers in a lot of ways. Jace is quite obviously the more powerful one in the format, but um, we do like that Chandra can stop the +1 of Jace and force him into a position where he's always going to have to be cashed in for value. I mean, the difference between having this Jace on board on one loyalty and not having it all is actually quite large here, and it puts us in a good spot. Okay, so we have a detention sphere, which is going to hit the Chandra. +1's Jace again. So we can actually just kill Jace with this and play a hammer, which isn't the worst place to be in the world, but he's probably got a syncopate for one here. I would like to put the Fnatic down, put a damage on the Jace again, and then sort of demand an answer. He's only on 10 life, so it's getting to the point where we're very close to being able to burn him out just with Boros Charms. But mainly we need to stop the flow of cards, the possible flow of cards, and keep the onboard pressure there. Um, I would have slammed this had we had an extra land, but we don't. So if I get to activate at the same turn, I would have just definitely played the hammer there. Funnily enough, the Ratchet Bomb is almost immune to being on 3 charge count. Sorry, like the Hammer of Perforos is immune to the Ratchet Bomb, is what I mean to say. Just because it's 3. Okay, so Elspeth's going to be make it a lot more difficult for us to get in combat damage. Obviously, 2 Boros Charms though. So he is effectively at 2. I think what I'd like to do is play the Perforos here. Means that almost anything we do is going to be lethal. And it also doesn't load the 4 mana spot up. So we're not going to attack with the Fnatic. It's an unfavorable trade for us. Trade for 2 soldier tokens is fairly, irrelevant. he effectively slowed us down. We've still got cards, but we've been definitely put in our place a bit. I would say that he's achieved a fairly good lock on the game. We don't want to see a Sphinx's Revelation, and given that, we're going to give him the Divination by itself. He'll probably take the Divination, I imagine. Yeah. I feel like this is a little greedy. There's no need to attack with the soldiers here. My life total is fairly irrelevant. Okay, and that would explain it. Okay, so there's land. Um, yeah, we're just gonna go at him with hammer here. Hammer's quite strong, and it puts us in a position where these Boros charms are very close to being lethal. I imagine that we've taken too long at this point to avoid him revelationing at least once, but it's still not awful for us. Obviously, we have the choice here to trade this 2 damage in for the Jace, and that's it's not a bad idea, to be honest. Um, we can get that 2 damage back in other ways. We would like him to tap out to play another Jace, um, and we'd also very much like to kill him in response to a revelation. So no, we don't want to put it on Elspeth. Do I want to redirect it to Jace? That decision was made for no particular reason other than it just feels wrong to allow him to have Planeswalkers on the board. Um, you guys can write me and let me know if I was a correct or incorrect decision. The Voros Charm attack is very risky in that any revelation for any amount doesn't actually allow me to do it. Okay, so we might see another verdict here, which is fine by me. But maybe he just wants to pressure my life total. Where to? Okay, that's pretty sweet. Uh, which means that we can get Chandra back. It also means that we can get Burning Earth back. Hmm, difficult decision. We are also constrained on white mana here. If we get Chandra back, Perforos is a creature this turn, and we get access to more cards, so let's just do that. Cast Tear on this Detention Sphere. I'm gonna zero. Well, the +1's actually quite good here because we get to keep his Elspeth off ultimate for a turn. But I feel like it's sort of difficult. Hitting a spell here is really good as well, though. So we're gonna see what we've got. Spell or land's actually fine. Untapped land is obviously infinitely better, but earth. Okay. Um, hmm. Well, why not have both, I guess. Alright, so we're going to attack him with both of these. We got. Mm, yeah, we're going to have to attack the Chandra at some point as well. Okay, so we're in a, sort of a weird position. We don't want to be able him to be able to just untap and ultimate Elspeth and then just kill us. He's probably going to crack this Ratchet Bomb for 4, which will kill the Chandra, make this no longer a creature. Um, which makes sense. We can Boros Charm around that if we want, um, which is a little bit of a beating for him. We're gonna have to attack the Elspeth here. I'm obviously very happy to trade this Golem for all 3 soldiers at this point, especially with the danger of him ultimating the Elspeth. He may not see the Ratchet Bomb move. It's possible. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to make a hammer token to do 2 damage to the Elspeth. Um, to stop him from immediately winning the game. Well, okay, so it's going to make the ultimates this turn. These guys become, what, 9 damage in the air? 9 damage plus this dude, who is another 4, so 13 damage, which doesn't quite get him there. Um, yeah, okay. It's not absolutely essential. Nykthos is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana for us at the moment. So we can just play this Burning Earth and a. I don't really want to play this Burning Earth to be honest, because he's just going to Ratchet Bomb it away. I'd rather keep the hammer option open. Alright, we're going to pass. This could be wrong. Also worth mentioning that we've been fairly liberal with the time here. You'd need to play this faster in real life. Okay, so he's sacking it now. Here's a Revelation for 6. We just need to hope he doesn't find answers here. But we're also just going to Boros Charm to protect our Chandra, because racing with these Boros Charms is no longer an option. So he's got quite a lot of cards here. It's quite possible that he's when he stabilized at 10 life, that was it. He was on quite a few cards. I don't know when he saw that revelation. We're very close to beating him if we don't do it, but who's to know? All at Chandra, and yes, we will block. So if he has a Supreme Verdict to follow up here. Chandra's loyalty is fairly irrelevant as long as it's alive, because the -7 is awful in this deck. It's quite good in the burn deck, but in this deck it's basically you've got nothing to hit. Um, so as long as it's alive, it can 0, it can +1, and that's all you have it in the deck for. So, I mean, it's obviously worth keeping an eye on, because you want to have that around, but yeah, not such a big deal. Okay, so Frostburn Weird, that is 2 direct damage, which is nice. It's also got haste, which is great. We're going to 0 the Chandra though to see if we have access to another card. Whoops. So Mountain, yeah, I'll play Mountain. So we're going to cast this for. So we got 5. Alright, so we're going to activate Nykthos, cast for red. Quite happy to redirect to Elspeth. Again, quite happy to redirect to Elspeth. We want to keep the Chandra around, so we're going to keep at least some of these guys. I would like to attack with 3 though. Attacking with 3 guys here means that we can kill all these soldiers basically, and that puts us in as good a position as we would be with the for the Chandra to survive next turn, whilst removing some of his creatures from the board. So attack Elspeth, attack Elspeth, attack Elspeth. He gets to make a pretty sweet counterplay here, which is allowing his Elspeth just to die, which I think he's going to do, and attacking my Chandra with a bunch of his soldiers next turn, so dealing with that. Yeah, it's fair call. Trading 1 for 1 there, it's not a bad idea. So we have a Revelation for 7. At this point, that's he's got one of everything. We'll say it that way. I wouldn't be entirely surprised if we did see a Detention Sphere. The Elixir of Immortality is probably the card he's looking for at this point. I think putting all these cards that he's got in his graveyard back into his library will make his draws that much more live. Alright, so he's going to have to attack with at least 4. And I get to kill 2 of them. The Frostburn Weird and the Hammer are what keeping this Perforos animated at the moment. I would not be surprised if he tries to deal with one or more of them, or just all of them. I think I'm going to Vora's Charm. Yeah, I don't think it'll resolve, but that's fine as well. Yeah. Okay, I've only got like 2 minutes left on this 30-minute clock, so I'm going to shut up and just play things a bit faster. It is worth mentioning that the only reason that I'm willing to go these long into these matches is because this deck has no win conditions. Like they don't get to tie off games quite as easily as you would think, and it's not a bad thing in some ways. The deck's obviously very effective, but you do get these long drawn out affairs, and I'm not going to concede to a deck or a pilot that's playing a deck that assumes that I know when to give up. And yeah, okay, so here's the Elixir. Elixir's obviously the last nail in the coffin. I'd like to see our draw for the next turn, but I think he's got us with that. Okay, a land. So a land is a creature. I'm definitely considering putting a couple of more Chandras in the board. There are also some weird spells you can cast in this matchup, which have some effect. Notably, Possibility Storm is a really weird card to bring in here, but it's actually it's got some merit. I think it basically counters any X spell as well as turning instance into other instance. So if you were to cast a Dissipate, for instance, you don't get a Dissipate, but you do get something. Okay, that's it. I'm going to concede. So GG's. That was close. We're quite close there. Let me know if you saw something that I didn't, and I just stuffed it up. But yeah, so we'll look into the board a little bit. I think blue white's around quite a lot. Possibility Storm is something I'm thinking that might actually turn off enough of the cards that it's worth playing. It can obviously be Detention Sphere because Detention Spheres find other Detention Spheres when it's in play. But apart from that card, it doesn't really have answers. Like Ratchet Bombs can find other Ratchet Bombs and elixirs, but because there's only three in the deck, three artifacts all up, it's a bit strange. Verdicts finds pretty much just other verdicts or divinations. Divinations find verdicts, verdicts find divinations. So that's just it's unreliable. Basically, if you're dissolving into quickens, that's not great. If you want to counter my Stormbreath Dragon and you end up just drawing a card or cycling into Zuru's Charm or something like that, or even casting a Sphinx's Rev, which is going to be for 0, that puts me in a really good spot. So I think it's worth having a look at. It could be far too cute, but whatever. Anyway, so that was the blue-white control matchup, and we're going to go on to our second match, which is, I believe, mono black or Orzhov control.